Thank you for coming. I had chatted with Rudy a few times, and we had brought up like the buyer's rep agreement. And I know that initially when it came out, I was hesitant about using it too. So I kind of just pushed it off and pushed it off, and I eventually figured, well, you know what? Let me take the time to learn it, and then that was I started using it. But since I started using it, if my buyers don't sign it, then they're not working with me. Even people that I've had people send me referrals and stuff like that. I cover the form with them, and they're kind of like hemming and hawing. I'm like, okay, that's okay. Take it with you. If you're okay with everything, initial and sign it, send it back. We'll start working together. Okay. But even then, I've had them kind of, well, you know what? I don't want to get into commitment and all this other stuff. Okay. And more than anything, I wanted to show you guys how to avoid experiences in real estate, unpleasant experiences in real estate. Because I know we've all had it to where, our friends, families, and relatives go, list with somebody else or buy with somebody else. And, it's a big kick in the gut. And especially if, uh, so I know in real estate, it's either an expensive experience or it's a gut wrenching experience or a combination of both. Okay. So what we want to do is avoid how to do that. Normally, what I do is kind of obviously I've been in the business for 22 years, so I've learned a little bit from every trainer. So I'm gonna, you're gonna get it's something a little bit from all these trainers that I've actually sat through or took the time to learn from. Okay, and well, what you want to do is get them in the office. You got to get them to commit. Okay, so that you have to get them to come in and have yourself a little. I call it a buyer's counseling session. Okay, so I get them to come in, and then I tell them about the booby traps in the business and how to avoid those, and I tell them what I'm going to do for them, right? And the biggest thing too is to get what it is that they're looking for. What are you looking for? It's kind of like with my kids. I've sat down with them once they got into their teenage years, and they're going to start dating, right? And dating's not just something that we do for fun, right? Obviously, we're looking for a mate. So I sat down with all of them and I told them, okay, well, when you're going to be out there and you're going to start dating, what you want to do is get your top five. And what I mean by the top five things that you want to see in a husband or in a wife or whatever, right? You're looking for those things. Because if you know what you're looking for, then you know what it is. When you meet somebody that's not going to meet the criteria, well, then you know not to spend any time with them. Okay. And obviously, when we're teenagers, we had all the time in the world. We kind of tend to ignore some things, but I always share that with my kids. Okay. So the top five, I bring it into real estate by asking the buyer, hey, what do you guys want in a house? What are we looking for, right? And I'll normally have a pin with me, and I tell them, hey, look, I'm a fairy. This is a magic wand, and I can make your house appear. What does it look like, right? And then you just write everything that they name down. Everything. I want a pool. I want a spacious kitchen. I want $1,000 payment. Right, all the unrealistic things that But you just want them to write everything down. Right. Once you have your list, then you tell them, hey, what we want to do is we want to identify our top five. Okay, because we want to know what it is that we're looking for. Because I know we're gonna walk into houses that don't even meet one criteria, but they picked it out of the list. So what we want to do is eliminate those. Right. Because what's going to end up happening at the end, they're going to have four of their five, and you have to be able to overcome objections. Hey, look, it has everything but the pool, right? You can always put the pool later, but at least you narrow that down what they're looking for. Okay, I tell them a little bit about myself they can get a little bit comfortable, and I'm going to share the story with you so that you guys can also go ahead and get something together. Okay, I tell them that I'm originally from Del Rio, went to high school there, graduated, went to the Marines for 4 years, got out. I was a cop for 8.5 years in Del Rio, was where I met Tina here, and when she was younger, right? When we were both younger. Not in jail. Right. No, she wasn't in jail. She was working. She was working here at the PD. So, but I'm sorry, Tina. I didn't mean it that way. I didn't think it was gonna come out like that. But what happens is, and I let him know I'm like, hey, I was a cop for 8.5 years. I started doing real estate in 2001. I quit my job because I was gonna do financial services. And Del Rio's a small town, so Rudy had been in the business of real estate, and Rudy told me, hey, why don't you come up here and you can kind of talk to my folks and help, get a plan for them to get debt free and start investing and all that other stuff. So I decided to come and do it over. Came over here, started doing some business with some of Rudy's clients, And then he told me, hey, Robert, why don't you get into real estate? Sometimes it gets busy for me. You can sell a house here and there, kind of fill in the gaps if you got any commission gaps. And it made sense to me. Started taking the classes. And I think I got my license was a couple of weeks after September 11th, 2001. So I've been licensed since then. So I always remember, because people remember if they're old enough, right? Because I'm working on second generation right now. And I've been doing real estate since. I switched over my financial services industry. Everybody thought the world was going to end. So what ended up happening, didn't get a lot of business there, but the real estate market started moving early in 2002, and I've been doing that ever since. So that's my little story that I share with them. That way they can, they'll know a little bit about you, and you'll ask them, hey, you want to share something about yourself that you want to share with me? Sometimes they will, and they're like, no, not really, and you know, and you move on from there. Okay. So I have that little skit for them, right? I get that presentation. I tell them, hey, look, tell me what it is that you're looking for, and then I tell them, hey, look, this is what I'm going to do for you. I'm gonna negotiate for you, right? Now that we can't negotiate, because I know back a couple of years ago we really couldn't do anything besides, encourage them to give a good and competitive offer. So second thing is I'm a problem solver. There's gonna be little problems unless you guys are unlike me in every situation, every deal has some sort of problems. Okay, I tell them, hey, I'm gonna take care of those, all the little ones that you may not know about. I'm gonna take care of those because they're norm to the industry. But if it's going to affect your rate, your payment, something financial, obviously they're going to be the decision makers. But I'm going to take care of all the little problems because there's a lot of little problems that pop up, right? The third thing that I tell them is that I'm going to meet up with them after they buy their house. 5 or 6 months later, I'm going to let them get used to their payment, and then I'm going to get together with them and I'm going to show them how to pay it off faster. Okay? Because everybody wants to pay it off faster. Okay? I've never heard somebody say, "Hey, I'm going to take longer to pay for it." Okay? And then the last one that I tell them is that I have a after sales program just to kind of continue to keep in touch with them. Okay, because if you don't keep in touch with them, somebody else will bump into them and they'll become their clients. Okay, so we don't want that to happen. Because I know that most of us, we have clients that we haven't talked to. You sold them a house last year and you haven't reached out to them. Besides, hey, congratulations, thanks for using me, and maybe simple a note. Okay, but keep in touch with them. If you guys are in a slump, anytime you guys want to get it out of a slump, go visit your clients. Okay, go visit them. Every time my business starts kind of slowing down and going down, I start knocking on doors. Like at the beginning of the year, I did 75, what we call them pop-bys, right? Knocking on doors, just saying hello to your clients. And then just, they'll, what I've noticed is that the client will never tell you something on the phone that they'll tell you in person. So every time I go, they'll tell me about something. Sometimes it's good news, sometimes it's bad news, but you're there to listen, right? You're gonna show up and they're telling me, hey, dude, we're gonna have to sell because we're gonna get divorced. Or something else happens, right? Hey, I got a promotion. I'm gonna make more money, so I want a nicer house, which is always good news, right? But you have to visit them. So if you're in a slump, your business is slow, go out there, go knock on doors. They'll be happy to see you. Even if it's been, I've before I started doing the pop buys again, man, I hadn't seen some of these people for 5 or 6 years. Every time I go, and you're thinking in your gut, like, man, they're gonna slam the door on you or anything like that. They're always happy to see you. Okay, so you guys will probably get the same results. Alrighty, so I encourage you to do that. The other thing that I'm going to encourage you to do is that tell your clients, make sure you give them a business card when you meet up with them. Give them a business card and let them know, hey, look, if you want to go, I call it a get out of jail card. And they'll be like, what? So I'll give them my business card and I tell them it's a get out of jail card for the reason that if you go to an open house, flash your card, right? The agent, it's a lead generator, right? They're trying to produce more buyers that aren't represented, trying to make them their clients. But if they flash their card, they're like, oh, okay, you already worked with somebody, and they'll leave them alone. Okay? That was if they want to be in there 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It's not like trying to buy a car where, they're not going to want to let you go because they don't want you to buy. If you leave, you're not going to buy, right? So the other thing is with the builders too. Have anybody lost any business to builders? They'll go on, they're like, hey, they never mentioned your name. They didn't ask about a realtor or anything. But you let them know, because I tell all our buyers, hey, if you want to go see a builder, hey, there's a new neighborhood you didn't know about, I didn't know about, and it's new, and it looks interesting to you, or it's something that you might want to take a look at. Go take a look at it, but don't forget your get out of jail card. Okay? Because in that way, when they flash the card, the salesperson already knows that they're working with somebody. Okay, so encourage them to go. Okay, because you can't be with your client 24/7, but you can tell them, hey, go out there, just let them know you're working with somebody. If you like it, great. We'll come back. I'll come back with my realtor. Come back and we'll do business. Okay, but you don't want them wandering out there without you. Okay, and or without them letting the builders know. Okay, because they're not going to volunteer. Hey, I'm working with a realtor. Okay, because I think sometimes the sales counselors they don't really kind of push that. Okay. Um, let's see. And obviously at the end, I always ask for referrals. I ask them, hey, if I do a great job for you, make the experience smooth, easy, you don't have any stress, or as stress free as possible, right? Then would you refer me to your friends and family? Most of them will say yes. Okay. And then what I do is at the end, I tell them, hey, look, we work with the buyers in two ways. One is a customer, and the other one is a client. As a customer, all we can do is give you factual information: how big it is, what school district it goes to, what's the sales price, who the seller is, different things like that. Okay. But as a client, we're obviously we're gonna give you the same factual information, but we get to give you advice and opinion, and we get to strategize with you. So out of both of those, which one's the best one? Obviously, being a client, right? So I tell them, hey, so the best ones is the client, and all my buyers, in order for them to work with me, they have to be my clients. Okay. What do? You're asking them for a commitment, right? You already told them, hey, look, these are all the bennies that are working with me, and I'm asking you for a commitment. Okay. And I think that's probably the biggest issue that we're having is that we want to work with them, but we don't want them to sign anything because a lot of them will resist. Okay. So that's just a few. That's the way that I've been doing it for I don't even know when I started doing it. Okay, but it's been at least 10 years. Never had the problem. A few of them will say no, they don't want to sign it. That's okay. You know that they're not serious because we want to be running around town, spending our gas, putting miles on our car for somebody that's not committed. I know. Okay, so the way that I'm going to kind of cover the actual agreement, okay, because what I do tell the buyers is this, is that in order for you to become my client, we have to put it in writing because everything in real estate is in writing, correct? We all know that. So what I do is I sell them the form like this. As a Texas realtor, I'm licensed by the Texas Real Estate Commission. They issue our license. We're obligated to use their forms. We can't make up our own form, okay, because we're not attorneys, right? We don't practice law, right, Rudy? We don't practice law. Rudy doesn't want you to practice law, neither do I, okay? And I tell them, hey, look, the form that you're going to sign now, if it doesn't matter if you work with me or you work with any of these other realtors, it's the same form because we're all obligated to use the same forms. And a lot of them, they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense, okay? What may be different from the form that's not on the form is what I tell them, all of my clients is that if you're not getting the service that you deserve, then you shouldn't be tied down, right? And so what I tell them is this, is if there's any issues between us, okay, as in me and the buyers, that they're going to let me know in writing. They can text it to me, they can email it to me, and I tell them, give me 7 days to resolve the issue. If you're still not happy, then what we're going to do is we're going to meet up again. We're going to terminate the buyer's agreement, and we're going to shake hands and walk away, friends. Okay? But they have to give you time to fix the problem. But sometimes, it's kind of like me. If my wife's having issues with me and, she's not talking to me or whatever, I tell her I can't read minds. I'm still telling her, but she's not, she's still wanting me to figure it out. Okay? But we don't want to do that with our buyers, right? We want to make sure that they let us know what's wrong, what are we doing wrong, because sometimes we do drop the ball. Hey, I'm too busy, I haven't been able to get that list to you, or I sent you that list, I didn't change it, whatever it is, right? We want to make sure that they let you know what your problem is. Okay, because if they didn't give you time to fix it, you don't know it's a problem, you don't have any time to fix it, and they want to go work with somebody else. Okay? The only exclusion to that rule is if I already have them under contract, because technically I've already done my job. Okay? Normally after that, it's, you're bumping heads over, not about real estate, but other things. Okay? Alrighty, what I want to do is kind of cover the forms, the way that I cover it. That way you guys can get a view of how I do it as well. Okay? Obviously, we're going to cover the information about brokerage services, right? We're going to cover it up front. Uh, Obviously, we already know what the broker does and the agents do. And the way that I explain it to them, it's just that the broker is our supervisor, and we work under the broker's umbrella. Okay, kind of like an employee and a manager, same thing, and they'll get that, right? It's not nothing complicated. Minimum duties. Obviously, you're always going to put your client's best interest before yours. You're going to cover any material information, let them know about any offers, counter offers, or anything like that. Okay. And the fourth one is we're going to treat everybody fairly. Okay. Even if you don't like the agent or you don't like the seller because they were your former client, you have to treat everybody fairly. Okay. The big thing for me here is about who we represent in a real estate transaction. We can represent the seller. We can represent the buyer. We work as an intermediary, right? And the intermediary, I know that as being a realtor, being a new realtor too, it was a little confusing. So you don't have to confuse your client, okay? The easiest way that I explain it is the easiest definition for intermediary: two agents working for the same company in one transaction, okay? And that's it. And then you just let them know, hey, there's a guy here that's in our office. If he has the listing that you want to submit an offer. Well, I have to let you know in writing that we both work here, right? Because that's what we have to do. Normally, Rudy appoints listing agent to the seller, buyer's agent to the buyer, and you'll communicate for in both in the best interest of both of the clients, right? And you don't have to complicate it by you know giving them more information like that. But what I do want you to kind of pay attention to is as a sub agent, it says here a licensee holder acts as a sub agent when aiding a buyer in a transaction without an agreement to represent the buyer. A sub agent can assist the buyer but does not represent the buyer and must place the interest of the owner first. Okay? So, what does that mean to you guys? If you don't have a buyer's rep agreement, who do you represent?
So,
The seller, right? So I know these forms are here, and sometimes we don't kind of follow up with them, but just take a look at it. You don't want to be a sub agent, right? You want to be, you want your buyer to be your client, okay? Because then there's no gray area. There's, it's just black and white, okay? At the bottom, I just let them know. The company name, we're incorporated, Rudy's the broker, I'm their agent, license numbers, email address, and phone numbers. Obviously, if you have a license number, I always tell them, because normally they'll ask, hey, why do I need to know your license number? And I tell them, hey, if you feel that you've been discriminated against or that I did something wrong, you call Trek and you give them the license number, because that's how they track us down. Because I know in the city of San Antonio, there's more than one Robert Lozano, doing real estate. Okay, and if you have a name that's common in the area, then make sure that they have the right number. Okay. I'm gonna back up a little bit. Normally, I tell the clients this is that I'm gonna cover the important stuff. I don't write the contract. All I'm able to do is fill in the blanks, right? They're promulgated forms. All we're allowed to do is fill in the blanks, right? So that's one of those. Obviously, the first part, client, you're just saying, hey, you guys agree to work with me and my company, right? On paragraph 1. Okay. An appointment, obviously you're becoming their client or they're becoming your clients. And then on 3C, I put on their bear and surrounding counties. Okay. Like if you strictly work one county or that's where they want to be, then you can just put that county. Or you can write them in separately, right? On the term, I always do it for 6 months because it does take a while sometimes to get them under contract. So you want to make sure that you're giving yourself enough time. Okay. I know when the market was moving, I still did it for 6 just because a lot of competition, keeps you from getting them under contract quickly. Okay. Broker's obligation, obviously you're going to assist them in finding a house, submitting an offer. Okay. On 6, the most important part here is that they're signing the form and they're saying that they're gonna call you if they have any real estate related questions. Okay, they're not gonna call anybody else, and they're agreeing to do that. Okay, and a little joke that I have with my buyers is that if it's kind of like a marriage. You get to marry your client, but you still get to date, right? As an agent, because we have more buyers, right? So we have to just so that they understand, right? On representation, the only thing that I cover there is that they're of sound mind and body, and they can get into a written agreement. Okay? Intermediary status again, you want to ask them if they're okay with intermediary status. Okay? Most of the time, all of us assume that they're going to be okay with it, but sometimes they're not. They don't want to, feel like they're being taken advantage of because two agents are working at the same company. Okay? So let them know. On 9, competing clients, what I do tell them is that I might have another buyer that's looking in the same area. So that was when we're out shopping and I tell you, hey, I've already seen this one. Well, that's telling you, hey, I had another client that's looking in that area. Okay. I've never had a couple of buyers want the same house. So I tell them, hey, look, if I've never had the same person or two couples submit for the same house, but if you're the exception to the rule and you're the first one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep your offer between me and you, and I'm going to keep the other buyer's offer between me and them. We'll submit it because who's going to decide who's going to get the house? The seller is, right? So you just do the best job you can. There. Okay? On confidential information, obviously we all know that. We're all going to keep everything confidential. But I do tell them I can't keep confidential stuff that's going to become public information, right? What's going to become public information besides Rudy, because Rudy knows? Their deed, right? Once they become owners, it gets recorded at Bexar County Courthouse, and guess what? They're going to get junk mail galore. And but that gets recorded, so you can't keep it private. So let them know. The example that I use for my clients is I tell them that an experience that I had is one of my sellers called me up and he told me he was upset at me. He came to the office. Well, he was coming to the office and he wanted to know where I was at. I was like, well, I'm in here at the office. Why don't you come down? So he was upset. So when he got to the office, he raised his voice and he was raising Cain. And I told him, well, tell me the problem first and then let's try to figure it out. He's like, well, I'm upset at you because you told my mom that I sold my house and now she wants me to buy her a car. Okay? And I was like, okay, well, that explains it. I'm like, first of all, I don't know your mom. I don't have a number. So I couldn't tell her that, right? And he was like, no, you must have told her. How is she going to find out? So I told him, okay, pull out your phone, go to realtor.com or Zillow or Trulia or whatever, put in the address. And it's sold, and it said sold. And then it says how much they sold it for, right? Because we have to share information. And they were like, and he was like, well, my mom doesn't know how to use computers. I'm like, well, how about your nieces, your brother and sister? And like, well, yeah, they do. I'm like, okay, well, that's where they got it. But I can't keep that private, right? Or confidential. So obviously they left and they weren't upset at me anymore. Okay, they thought I had violated that confidentiality clause, okay? On broker's fees, guys, here I always put 3%, okay? Because that's what I charge, okay? If you want to charge less, well then put that. Or you want to charge more, put whatever you want to charge there, right? But I put 3% because that's what I charge. Okay? I know that there's listings that are selling for 2%, 2.5%, 2.75%, and stuff like that. If it's small enough, I'll eat the loss, okay? But what you want to do is you want to tell your client, hey, look, normal fee is this, and this is what I charge to do business, okay? Because I got to stay in business too, right? We're not nonprofit organizations. So what ends up happening is you just let them know, hey, if the seller, well, let me back up. You let them know, hey, normally the seller does pay our fees, right? Okay. But if they don't pay the fee, then you're responsible for it. Okay. But normally, what is it? 99% of the time, the sellers are going to take care of us, correct? Unless somebody ran into somebody that won't. Okay. So you just let them know, hey, that's the fee that I charge. Most sellers are going to pay it. Do you want me to include listings that don't pay all the fee, or are you okay covering some of it? Right? Because that's how you can overcome some of these objections. Because if you tell them first, they know that it's coming. Hey, that's only a 2.5%. I don't want to see it, right? But if they're excluding the listings, you're not excluding them from it, okay? Because I know the urge is there. Oh, 2%. Like, okay, I'm not going to show this one, okay? But we want to do that because then we do violate our rules, right? But what you want to do is just let them know, hey, look, if they don't pay me the full commission, are you okay covering the difference? And a lot of people would be like, yeah. Or they'll tell you, yeah, you know what? If they don't want to pay you your fee, I don't want to see it. Okay? So if they tell you that, well, then you can discard them. Alrighty? Down on F1, new construction. They take care of your fees too. but some of them don't, right? They were only paying 1% or 2% or whatever. Okay? So you just need to let them know if there's a difference, you guys need to cover. If there's not a difference or there's a bonus, you don't have to worry about it. Okay? The seller's gonna take care of us. On the other, anybody work for sale by owner?
I've done it.
You've done it before? Right. What do you want to do? Like what I do is for my buyers, I tell them to say, the only people that I don't want you to make contact with is a for sale by owner. Take a picture of the sign, give me the address, I'll call. Okay? Because the first thing that I want to do is make sure that they're realistic with the price, right? Because if it should be selling for $250 and they're selling for $300, you know, what I do is I call up front, right? And I tell them, hey, look, I have a buyer that's interested in your house. They gave me the address and your phone number, so I'm reaching out to you. Okay? If I can show you that your house is overpriced, would you sell it at market price to my seller or to my buyer? And the majority will always tell you what? Yes, I'll take care of it. Yeah, you can just show me, okay? But no tricks. You show me how much it's worth, and I'll pay, and I'll sell it for that amount. Because normally, are they overpriced? Right? If you work with them, you know they're always overpriced. Okay. So once you have your foot in the door with a for sale by owner, he agrees to sell it at market price. Because I know we've all ran into those that say, no, if I don't get what I got it listed for, I'm not selling it. Okay. So you just scratch them and move on. Okay. Because that's what what we want to do, right? We want to make sure it's within the market price. If they're okay with that, which is 95% of the for sale by owners that I've made contact with, then what you do is you tell them, hey, look, are you open to, hey, if I bring you a willing, able buyer, would you cover my commission? Okay? The majority of them will. Because what they want to do is they only want to pay one guy, not two. Right? So that was you overcome those objections. Okay. Here, and then I start negotiating for my client. Hey, are you going to pay closing costs, title, home warranty, all that other stuff? So you negotiate up front. Because if they say, hey, no, I'm not paying any closing costs, and your buyer doesn't have any money, you just tell your buyer, hey, you know what? He's not going to cover any closing costs. So do you want to see it? Most of the time, no. Well, I need the help. I can't buy it if they're not going to help me. Okay. Let's see. Normally, I put 30 days on the protection period. The way that I sell it is this: is that hey, you know what? If it takes, hopefully, it doesn't take us 6 months, right? Nobody wants to be showing houses for that long. But if it does take us 6 months, if we have to go into the 7th month, it just says that anything that I've shown you before the 6-month period ended, then you agree to use me for the next 30 days as your agent. Okay? And then the way that they can get out of that is if they're not happy with you and they sign another agreement with somebody else, then it voids that part of the contract. Okay, and they can move on. But if not, they're agreeing to use you for another 30 days. Okay, so a 6-month agreement becomes a 7-month agreement. Alrighty? But just whatever you've shown them within the first 6 months. And what's the other option? You can extend it, right? You can always extend another 2 or 3 months. Okay, so that's not beyond that. Okay, on H, escrow authorization, I do tell the client, hey, once we get under contract, you're authorizing me to take your contract to the title company so they can start doing their part of the transaction. Okay, county, of course, Bear or Medina or Atascosa, wherever you're at. Mediation, the way that I sell mediation is this way. If there's any issues between us, okay, we both agree to go to mediation. It's a more affordable way to resolve an issue. Okay, and I tell them, and I tell them how it works. Okay, you can get a little funny with your presentation. Okay, what I do is I tell them, you guys are kind of a young crowd except for a few of us. Anybody seen the People's Court? Just Judy, Joe Jackson. You know, there's a lot of court ones. Kind of works like that. 2 parties show up, tell the mediator, arbitrator, or whatever, and then they decide, and then we move on. Okay, and then what helps me out is that I've never gone to mediation. Okay, and I want to keep it that way. So I always tell them that I don't know how much number 14 is going to charge them. Okay? But if you know an agent that's gone through mediation, they'll be more than happy to tell you how much it is. I think it's $2,500 at least, right? $2,500.
It's $200. The last time we went, maybe 3 years ago, it was $200 per party. It was $200 for the broker, $200 for the buyer, $200 for the seller, $200 for the other broker. It was $800.
And that's happened the same.
I thought it was more.
That happened the same more.
That happens throughout the city. It's just the mediators pay that amount of money, but that was just one mediator. They all charge different prices, but that was 3 years ago. be a good mediation, that was the cost.
Is it critical?
Okay.
Probably with inflation.
Yeah, but you don't want to find out, right, how much attorneys charge. So try not to get in trouble, right? On the default provision, obviously it tells them that they're tied to you, right, for the 6 months or whatever, however long that you have it, and it doesn't really tell them what to do. Okay. So they always figure that they can just move on, go sign up with somebody else. Okay. But on 17 special provisions, that's where I write in there, because remember, if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist, right? So that's where I write in there, if there's any issues between us, that they're gonna tell me first, give me 7 days to resolve it. If they're still not happy after that, then we're gonna mutually agree to terminate the contract, shake hands, and walk away from it. Okay? And also the exception, if they're already under contract, they don't need to fire me. Okay? And on the attorney fees, like I said, I don't know what they charge. I've never had to go through that. So, but ask somebody, because I know there's, if you bump into somebody, just ask them, hey, have you ever gone to mediation? Hey, I don't bother because I'm trying to make it to the end of my career without having to pay attorneys. Okay? On 15, and this is probably the biggest reason that you want to get one of these signs, besides just your income, is that they're agreeing that they're not going to hold you liable if they go and they get hurt. They go to new build, they go to pre-owned, or any house, that they're not going to sue you. Okay, because it's not your house, so should you be responsible for it? No, right? The sellers have insurance. Well, when they hear getting hurt, stuff like that, they always think, oh, well, what's going to happen if I do get hurt? And just let them know, hey, sellers have insurance. You file a claim on their insurance, and they'll pay out. Okay? Same thing that happens in a car, right? Alrighty. On addenda, usually I've also used, obviously, the information about brokerage services, the for your protection, get a home inspection, and then general information and notice to buyers and sellers. Those are the 3 that I use, but if you're having issues with some of the other ones that they've come up, go ahead and add those in there. On 18, guys, like I was telling you guys before, I charge the 3%, but A here says that our fees are not fixed, control, recommended, or suggested, right? On B, we will abide by the fair housing laws and not discriminate against the protected classes, right? On C, obviously we're not inspectors, surveyors, engineers, any of that. They have their own separate fees, okay? You wanna let them know, because they're not expecting the home inspection to be paid by somebody else, okay? They already know up front. And you can tell them fees, whatever, you've run into. I know that there's some that do a basic one, 300. There's some others that do 3D and 4D and charge you $500 or $600. But just tell them, $300 to $500 will work. And the survey, same thing. Some charge 4, others 8. It's different. Alrighty, here it says that we do recommend that they get an abstract covering the property, and we all know that's a title policy, right? If they get a loan, they're gonna get one of those. If they're gonna buy for sale by owner, or they're gonna buy cash, make sure that you tell them to get a title policy, okay? Because you may not have had any issues, but issues always pop up when you don't have any coverage. Okay. Let's see, residential service contracts. Now these are back on the table, unless you have multiple offers. But just recommend that they get one. And the example, the way that I sell it is that a residential service contract, what it does, it covers certain mechanical items in the house. If they break down, you call them, pay a deductible, and they'll repair or replace. Okay? But not always. So, on F, when you view in a property, everybody's got the new security systems up. Okay? So just let them know, hey, when you're gonna go see a house, if you see cameras, then Big Brother's watching, right? The owner. If you're inside and there's cameras, the way that it's supposed to work, okay, according to Texas Realtor Magazine, is that it's kind of like going to a bathroom, right? When you go inside the bathroom and you close the door, you're not expecting somebody to be listening to you or have you on video, right? You figure that you have privacy. So as buyers and buyers agents, when we go into a house, we're supposed to expect that same thing. If that's fine if they have cameras, but they're not supposed to be listening to you. Okay? And just food for thought, if you guys are showing and they have a Ring camera, the Ring cameras have a very good microphone. Okay, I was selling my neighbor's house, and she's got like a long driveway, and she could hear them all the way to the end of the driveway, and she could tell what they were saying. So you have clients that want to be chatty. Okay, tell them to put their poker face on when you're seeing houses. Okay, you can't look like you have a banana in your mouth sideways, right? With a smile ear to ear. So just let them know. Hey, look, we have to have a poker face. If you love this house, don't tell me nothing until we're in the car. Okay, or we drive away and you can tell me at that next house. Okay. On obviously we know about the wire fraud. Tell all your clients, hey, if you ever get anybody asking you for money that sounds like it's a legit thing, call me first. Okay? Especially, if it's the title company, let them know. Hey, title's gonna send you how to get money to them. You can wire it, you can do whatever, but please pick up the phone, call them first. Call their general number and ask them, hey, I want to confirm the wiring instructions, okay? And then they'll let them know. Because we had one of our guys, I think his buyer was going to make a $70,000 down payment, and they sent his email address, and he had his name, and he's the third. Well, what they did is they put another I in there, and then sent the email. And the guy was like, luckily the guy called him and said, hey, dude, I thought you told me to get a cashier's check and take it to title instead of wiring it, because I got wiring instructions right now. So if he wouldn't make that call, that guy would have been about 70 grand. Okay. So just food for thought. Don't tell them, hey, look, anytime you got to send big amounts of money, don't send it. Let's check first. Okay. It doesn't take a long time. How long does it take to get $70,000 together? A long time, right? How long does it take you to make a call? 5 minutes, right? If that. So just make sure you do that. On consultant attorney, brokers cannot give legal advice. This is a legally binding agreement. Read it carefully. If you do not understand the effect of this agreement, consult an attorney before signing. Okay? A lot of people get caught up in this. Okay? I just tell my buyers this, is that if you sign this, we agree to work together. I'm your agent and you're my client. Do you guys understand that? They're like, yes. Okay. So you're agreeing to what's on the form. And the majority of the people will sign for it.